you have found your way to this channel, you must be a lover of stories, of myths and legends. This is Solace Ba, Scots Gaelic for light of life. Welcome, dear one. I'm Lily Christensen, and sometimes go by Grandma May. Here at Solace Ba, we return to the old paths, to stories shaped by firelight, carried through the centuries and remembered in the marrow of the bones. So sit back in your most cozy, safe place with your favorite blanket and maybe a nice warm drink, and let me inspire magical peace and rest while grand adventures play out in the mystical world of Trivar. Last time we left the elf with the baby, getting more comfortable with her and taking her through a forest. As they leave the open glen, he was thinking of his brother and his equally important mission. Let's continue the prologue of Beyond Trivar. By evening, a slice of the setting sun escaped through clouds at the horizon to illuminate the rider as he entered the forest. Riding between branches of evergreens, he breathed deeply and looked back at the open land behind him, allowing relief to wash over him and smooth the anxious lines on his forehead. He turned forward again and let the horse walk slowly. "We're nearly there," he said as he heard the distant roaring surf and smelled the fresh, salty air from the North Sea. Snuggling the baby close, they made their way through the moss-covered trees. As darkness gradually wrapped its tendrils around them, a strange but not unfamiliar sound flooded the air, like a rainstorm on a wooden shelter as it grew into a downpour. However, the rumbling came from the earth below him. He recognized the sound as thickly padded, quickly moving feet, hundreds of them. Without hesitation, he kicked his heels into his steed's sides and leaned over the baby. In and out through the trees they galloped without looking back or slowing. Branches whipped his face and grasped at his white hair, but he urged his horse on. Shortly the woods began thinning. Brambles covered the ground. His faithful horse found an El Corinne trail and followed it swiftly. The old warrior could see ahead where dirt mixed with sand and tall grasses replaced brambles and trees. As his path became sandier, his horse's footing was no longer sure. Out of necessity, he slowed and checked behind him. Shadows moved at the far edges of the forest. His brow furrowed. He looked down at his charge and back at the shadows. In one smooth motion, he shot a bright white light from his hand in the direction of the shadows. The thin arrow of light spread into a wide shield and flashed in an explosion of blinding light. caused their small beady pupils to open painfully. The light hit some of them, killing them instantly. He smiled, but his head and shoulders sagged. In front of him lay a row of small but daunting sand dunes, covered with grass. A flock of seagulls squawked mockingly overhead. He slowly breathed in the fresh sea air in an attempt to regain some strength as his horse climbed the nearest sand dune. Arriving at the top, at last he saw the North Sea. It was growing dark, but the waters seemed lit by an internal flame. Each crashing wave erupted into big white plumes. The sky above had cleared to reveal early stars. Aurora Borealis shimmered in the sky behind a ship resting at anchor in the bay. But there were no boats on shore. His countenance fell. He rode his horse down the dune through soft sand, then onto the wet, compact sand, all the way to the edge of the sea. Stopping short of the frothy waters, he yelled toward the boat. But the turbulent sea engulfed his cry. Again he tried, but his voice trailed off. Looking at his charge and then at the shifting colors of the sky, he whispered a quick prayer before raising his hand and shooting out 3 lights. Simple arrows of light with no explosion over the ship's bow. His head drooped over the baby, and he looked lovingly at her. With his last bit of strength, he dismounted, clutching the child and dropping to his knees. As carefully as he could, he fell onto his back in the wet sand and untied the blanket, leaving the baby asleep on his chest. He watched the ship. It was dark. No one stirred. "Galantry, no," he whispered to the surf. "I can't do any more. Please protect this child. Please make up for my weakness. Let them come and get her." A light appeared on the upper deck. Men with lanterns ran to a small rowboat that they lowered to the sea and rowed to shore. The rider had no strength but to do anything except watch the boat and hope they would beat the shadows to him. The sound of the ground storm had returned and rumbled with a vengeance behind him. The baby woke and began to cry. "Please be still, little one. It is going to be all right. Galantry is watching over you. It is going to be all right." He tried to reach for her bottle in the saddlebag, but could barely lift his arms from her fragile body. Men from the rowboat ran up the beach with lanterns in their hands. As the men with the lanterns arrived, the now thundering sound from behind reached its climax. Short, thick, hideous-looking creatures like black shadows appeared on the crest of the dune, but hesitated. The elf knew their features well, their large noses, beady eyes, irregular bodies, their stench. The child cried louder, trying to send one more explosion of light at the shadows. He moved his fingers, but nothing happened. His eyes widened as rough-looking strangers from the ship approached. Once they were standing around him, he confronted them with his little remaining strength. "You aren't whom I expected." "Well, I can't say that a silver elf with a baby is what I expected either," the man from the ship said. "And strangely it appears that we now have another Highland baby to sell. Thank you." Another baby. Images of his brother flashed through his mind. "It happens to be our business to trade worthless Travarians for things of greater value." All the men laughed. "You can't have her. I was expecting someone else." The elf's voice was faint and frustrated. "But you have no power to stop us. Besides, your Bulbain friends won't be kinder to her than we will be. My Bulbain friends won't be kind to you either. From the looks of things, our light will keep them in check until we are safely on our way. My guess is that you might be the one in the most danger from them." "Don't take her," the elf pleaded helplessly, "and leave her to the Bulbains." "What kind of a pirate do you think I am?" The pirate picked up the child, startling her and causing her to cry again. With the sobbing infant in tow, the pirate and his men ran spryly to the rowboat, the ancient dance of the Auroras lighting their escape. The elf watched sadly, unable to do more for the child. Something intuitively drew his attention back toward the shadows. At the top of the hill, a dark, ghastly figure of a man emerged. The dark figure he feared more than any other. "Damon," he whispered. The elf closed his eyes and prayed. Thank you for spending this time with me. May these stories bring you rest, wonder, and a sense of home, the kind that lives in the bones, remembers the old paths, and lingers long after the tale fades. Until next time, may the light of life walk with you. I'll meet you again in the next story. All my love.